What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Film Room here on Two Guys Watching Football, where we're going to continue our series breaking down some of the college prospects for the 2022 NFL Draft. This is going to be defensive line week. We're going to be looking at a few guys along the D-line, definitely a position in need for the Ravens, and we're going to start with Travon Walker out of Georgia. Interesting guy because he's been one of those guys that, at every you see iterations of mock drafts and certain guys start getting a little bit of a linkage to a team. And I think the Ravens and Walker have been one of those heavily connected, depending on who's doing the media mock. So that's where we want to focus on him. I'm joined today by my guy, Spencer Schultz. Spencer, my man, how's it going?
I can't hear you. There we go.
There we go. What's up, man?
What's going on, brother?
Did you just get yourself out of bed?
No, I was eating dinner. I haven't looked at myself in the mirror. It was a little disheveled there after a shower after the workout, but here we are.
There you go. So today we're going to be looking at Walker. Spencer's no stranger to the Film Room, regular guest and regular attendee, which I always love getting your insights in the chat. So I'm looking forward to this one. So we're looking at Walker, 6'5", 275-pound defensive lineman at the University of Georgia. Interesting note on Walker, the previous 2 years he weighed in the spring at 290 and played this year at 275. I thought that was interesting because he's kind of that inside-outside versatile guy. You never know really how accurate those measurements are, but we'll see at the combine. I went to Upson Lee High School in Thormiston, Georgia, where he was selected to represent the East in the 2019 All-American Bowl. Highly rated guy, 5-star prospect, number 2 defensive tackle nationally, number 24 overall, and he stayed home, committing to the Bulldogs. One of the interesting things about him, his parents actually both are from Thormiston. They were high school sweethearts, and then Walker himself stayed local, went to Thormiston or Upson Lee in Thormiston, and then he stayed local and went to the University of Georgia. And he's talked about it a few times in some interviews about how he wanted to stay local. And his town had this insane celebration when they won the Natty. So he's really the pride and joy of that Georgia town. So I thought that was really cool. And another really cool note about him, he's a multi-sport athlete. Really helps explain his freakish athleticism. But he played for Upson Lee's high school basketball team that won 71 straight games and consecutive Class 4A titles. And he averaged 16 points, 12 boards, and 2 blocks as a senior. It looked like he played the 4 spot, so power forward. Made an immediate impact in 2019 as a freshman, all SEC freshman, co-winner of the Newcomer of the Year award. Played in 12 of 14 games, finished with 15 stops, 2.5 sacks, 3.5 tackles for a loss. Also had 8 QB pressures, had a solid 2020 before solidifying himself this year in his junior year. Starting in all games, 37 tackles, 6 QB sacks, 7.5 tackles for a loss, and a team-high 36 QB hurries. And then a little bit on his backstory. I couldn't really find much, but one thing that was interesting, I saw an interview his dad did, and his dad is a member of the U.S. Marine Corps, and he really talked about that local feeling, and he also talked about instilling some of those values that he has himself from his time in the military. And I think anything you see his coaches say about him, those carry over. Hard work, determination, respectful kid, all things that you want in a competitor. So before we jump into the film, I like to start these with a little bit of a player evaluation question. So I'm going to go to Spencer, really weigh in on the knowledge that he has, and just ask, because I think this is going to be kind of around the topic with Walker. What do you need to see from a guy to consider him a first rounder? And how do you distinguish, like, what's a first rounder versus a top half of the first round selection? What do you need to see from a guy?
So pertaining to an edge player, and while he does have a ton of versatility, he's going to be playing he could be playing 0 tech at the NFL in a certain scheme, significant snaps. But looking at him as an edge rusher and where he's probably going to be on first down a lot of the time, that 5 tech standing or hand in the dirt, either way, you need to be able to play well when you're lined up over a tight end. And for a first rounder, they need to be dominating tight ends with strong, fast hands. They need first step quickness, and they need to have explosive power to set the edge. They need to be productive in the run and the pass game, meaning that they're an every down player. You have a lot of edge prospects and even a guy like maybe David Ajabo, where early on in their career, despite being a first-round player, are they going to be a first and second down player? Are they going to be a second and long, third down player, pass situation player, or are they both? And to me, most, unless maybe it's a guy like Ajabo who is such a prolific pass rusher with room to grow. But anyway, if I'm taking you in the first round, most times it's because you can play against the run and do something against the pass on third down. You have to be a confident 3-down player, meaning I am confident that you're going to get your job done. You're going to be able to hold the edge. You're a good tackler. You're going to be able to be effective in coverage if asked to be, and you're going to be a dominant level special teams player if asked to be. Pass rush, first up explosion, point of attack, setting the edge. You need to check all 3 of those boxes for me as well. You want to look at pass rush repertoire, bend, hand usage, play strength, range in pursuit, their motor, and their football intelligence as factors that you want them to be checking many of those boxes as a first-round player.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's one of the things I think that got lost in the Odafe Owe conversation, because everyone kept being like, this kid's boomer bust, this kid's boomer bust. But Owe was so good against the run that he kind of gave me that confidence of like, there's a high floor guy. Like, I don't think he's going to come into the NFL and not be able to play at all. I think he's going to be at a very minimum, which is that floor, a good player against the run. And then you see the freakish athleticism. You see some of the stuff he's done as a pass rusher. So, that was always one of the weird things around Owe and taking him where he was, and people being like, well, he doesn't have the production to be a first-round player. Maybe, but he had a lot of the traits. And that's something that I think, we're going to get into Travon Walker. I wouldn't say similar guy, because I don't think he's quite the athlete that Owe was, but similar in the sense that this is a guy that is a day one player. He's going to probably start for you right away because he has such a high floor. He's already such a good run defender. It's really that, the biggest thing, and we'll get into it, is, hand usage in the pass game and, putting together counters and kind of taking that step as an edge rusher to be the complete player. But in terms of what Walker can bring to you, I was talking about it with someone on Twitter today. He's going to probably start week 1 for you. He's that kind of guy, physical, really, really powerful hands. He just has work to do in the pass rush game. That's really what it comes down to. And we can get into the film to really show it.
Certainly. And again, looking at an edge rusher, you want to see a lot of the same physical attributes that you see in a tight end to a degree. And you want them to be a tight end bully. And Walker is certainly a bully of tight ends.
Yeah, that was one thing. I noted it down a few times and I don't know if I have a lot of clips of it, but and this is the thing, I can't emphasize this enough, because it's kind of a caveat for every single Georgia player that you're going to look at. And I mean, there's 9 guys on that defense that are probably going to be drafted, maybe more. And then like a handful of them, 4 or 5, are probably first rounders. But and I just heard Brugler and Zierlein talk about this on the Athletic Pod. They ran a very specific scheme where guys really stuck to their roles. There was not a lot of freelancing, and I think that hurts guys on their tape. So the context of the Athletic Pod, please go check it out. Awesome episode. They were talking about the Senior Bowl and the impact that Devontae Wyatt had, and so Brugler was explaining that he had about a 2nd-round grade on him, but seeing him at the Senior Bowl outside of that structure where he could be himself, and he got a huge bump in his ranking, because you're seeing all of the things that he can do outside of that specific role. So what you'll see from Walker, a lot of chips on the tight ends. You'll see him basically sacrifice himself to be a knife on a stunt. So stuff like that. If you're doing that regularly, executing that role, that's hurting your production for obvious reasons. And Owe was also a victim of that because of how many line games they used at Penn State. Similar context at Georgia. So I think what hurts Walker a little is he didn't get a chance at the Senior Bowl to go show what he can do on an individual level.
Certainly. And what technique are they playing? What's the down? All of those things are so key. And again, with Owe, and something we'll see with Walker and Georgia's defense, Kirby Smart's defense does have some similarities to what Penn State does in the fact that they want to defend the run first and foremost. And Walker and Owe both are imperative players. We don't want to harp on that too much, but how often was Owe used as a 4-eye? And how many 4-eyes do you see that are putting up prolific sack numbers or positive sack numbers. If you're lined up at 4-eye, you're playing the run. And something I've heard Kirby Smart talk about at clinics a lot of times is low gear versus high gear. Is a guy coming off the line to penetrate, or is he coming off the line to control his gap? So isolating those things and understanding the difference between those reps. What does it look like on 3rd and 7 versus what does it look like on 2nd and 6 or 1st and 10? Those are all key context. And like Dane and Greg do a good job Lance do a good job doing, isolating, taking them, putting them in a vacuum. The Senior Bowl is a vacuum where they're removed from scheme. They're removed from all of these, question marks and variables to a degree. And you're getting that honest evaluation of them as an athlete.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why, it was a weird Senior Bowl in the sense that I don't know if it's just the context of the COVID season in 2020 with guys returning. And I mean, even the quarterbacks, 6 of the top 7 quarterbacks were in this year's Senior Bowl. It was just a weird Senior Bowl where there were so many top prospects. There is every year, but this year seemed even more so. But some of these juniors, redshirt sophomores, whatever it is, didn't get that opportunity. Guys like Charles Cross, guys like Travon Walker, they just didn't get that opportunity to kind of show that. But it really shows the value that the Senior Bowl can bring. So we're going to get into the film now. We're going to look at clips from 3 games. We're going to look at 2021 Kentucky first. A lot of people on my Twitter want to see him against Darian Kennard. He moves left or right, but Dare Rosenthal is their left tackle, redshirt junior, transfer from LSU, good player too. So he was facing good competition in that Kentucky game, and then we're going to look at we're looking at 2021 Alabama from the SEC championship game. I don't have the natty yet, but I also want to look at the 2020 Alabama game, and the specific reason is I really want to see him and his power against that big 2020 physical offensive line that Bama had. Guys like Deontay Brown, guys like Landon Dickerson. They had Leatherwood, and then they had Neal. And you kind of see, and Travon Walker's a year younger. He was only a sophomore, so there's some context there. But it was really interesting to kind of see his power game and his hand usage and just his ability to jack guys with that strength in his hands against those more powerful run blockers versus 2021, where that interior is a little bit younger. So we're going to jump right into Kentucky. Pop it up here. Skip ahead. 102 on this one. Just a second. I think it's skipping. There. So just follow the yellow arrow. I'm using the cut up so that we'll get it. Get a good use of his. Yeah, right there. So this is exactly what Spencer's talking about. This is where he's going to get a nice rep against tight end number 80 there, and he's just going to long arm him against the run.
When you see him peeping, you see him able to get vision to the back, to the quarterback through his triangle. And when you're able to get a long arm, have a firm base, and have that vision in the backfield, you're going to make plays. You're going to be in the right spot. You're going to be able to adjust as the play unravels.
I'm not sure there's much more I'd want from my edge player against the tight end than literally just he's putting him aside here, and I'm just going to sit in my gap, and then I'm going to make a play on the ball. And I don't have a ton of tight end clips, but this is regular. Like tight ends can't block him one-on-one. It's just, it hasn't been a thing. Like Spencer said, it's what you want to see. And he dominates those guys in the run game. He's just going to sit, read, fill my gap, make a play. Really can't ask for much more than that. But you're going to see that all night, that power in his hands, the way he long arms guys. I don't know what he's going to measure him, but looks like he plays pretty long, at least from what I can see. So it's
definite wingspan. He's got a prodigious wingspan based on what it looks like on tape.
Yeah, that's what I see. It's constant with that long arm and his ability to kind of jack guys with his hands, powerful hands too. I think we're going to see his length again here.
Locked out. See the arch. You see how far back his feet are to where his hands are, creating that nice 45-degree angle.
Right there on 80 again. Is this?
No, it's not the same route.
No, it looked like it though. Looks like he's jacking the tight end up.
Yeah.
But same idea. It's basically the same alignment. He doesn't quite get in the gap, but he just
this time he's in a 3-point stance instead, I think.
See, look right there. He's got him completely locked out. That tight end can't even regain his chest. because you can't gain leverage if you don't have your hands on him. So that's kind of what we mean by he looks, at least he plays long, whether or not he measures long, doesn't really matter. He plays it. He's just pushing him back. 80's got no leverage. He just controls that, pushes him through. Nice little finish there.
Looks like he's in a 4-eye here. No, he's in a 7. He's inside that tight end.
So comes off slow.
Definitely slow out of the gate there.
But same idea here against that left tackle. I only use the end zone angle because you can't really see it on the other one. But just jacks him with that long arm, right there. And so that means he's going to maintain his base. If the ball comes his way, it looks like it got blown up in the backfield. But if that's going to come his way, I mean, he's basically like that first rep we saw. He's turning that tackle away from the play. He can't get to shoot if he's out there.
And what's his assignment on that play? His assignment's going to maintain leverage to the outside, hold the edge.
Contain, force it back in. He's the only one outside on this play right there. So, again, can't emphasize it enough. This happens regularly. So I think he gets inside here at the 2-eye. That's an important context note because a lot of what I think he can bring you as a pass rusher, it's kind of that Pertel McPhee special where he can kind of play your edge, be a strong run defender, and then slide inside and use his athleticism and his hand power against guards. We'll probably get into a lot of that tonight about, is he a true edge rusher? How does that hurt his projection? But he's going to have this ability to slide inside, and that versatility brings a lot of value to his game.
Certainly, and it's 3rd and long here.
Yeah. And so QB gets away, but he forces him out of the pocket there. See it much clearer. So he's right here over the right guard.
He goes with the club and rip. You see a little hezzy too. He's got a little bit of quickness to him at his size.
And that's really going to be the value. It's going to be that athleticism on the inside.
And they're running game.
And he's going to force him up the middle, but forces him out of the pocket. That's what you want.
Right.
I think this went right into – oh, this one marked? No, I'm going to go through so here he's in as a 4-tech. Right there on the right side of the line.
Yep, head up. Comes inside, gives a half man to the guard.
So what I really want to show here is his ability to jump the gap here. So just how quickly his first step is, and he gets across. Same idea what we saw before against a slower, call him slower, less quick guard. He's able to kind of use that first step quickness and his explosiveness to make a play. Again, a regular thing when he's an inside rusher. Here we have him. So this is one of the ones I want to show. This is him. Pretty sure it's a true edge rush against Kennard, the right tackle. So Kennard's your end of second, early third, I guess, rated prospect for many people. I actually haven't watched him yet, so I can't say a whole lot, but that seems to be roughly where he's going.
He's an NFL guy.
He's an NFL guy. And so this is kind of the meat, I think, of his pass rush game right now. It's the long arm bull rush, which he hasn't shown a consistent ability to build off of. I think but you can see what he can do with it here. Kennard's known as a guy that's a tackle right now that's probably going to move inside to guard because of athletic reasons. But he's known as being a big, powerful guy. Again, haven't watched him, can't talk a whole lot, but that's kind of what you see when you look him up. But you're going to see him long arm him here and then drive. And he has no problem with that. So, I mean, in that sense, yeah. And in this sense, like this is the meat and potatoes of his pass rush game right now is that ability to kind of use his length and then drive a guy. And you can see him nice and low on the drive. Watch as soon as he hits that left long arm. Watch him re-engage his hips. Boom, boom, boom. So, I mean, that's a good rep to show it. We're going to see some where you're kind of wondering if he could branch together a few things in his game to have a more prolific arsenal for pass rush moves. Here they're heavy on the right side, so they've moved. That's their left tackle over there. They got a tight end here at the left tackle alignment. So he's in at the 6 tech against the left tackle in a tight end alignment.
And he looked like he was coming off low gear there a little bit.
And he goes through him again, but you kind of see it again. Hands up, strong hands, gives that drive.
Same spot every time. He's got those inside hands every time. You see that tackle get shocked back and completely lose balance.
And that was one thing from his game that surprised me was very few times are guys absorbing that hand contact. He's almost always getting the move. And that's where it's like, okay, so what's his potential as a pass rusher? If you have that violent of hands with that much strength, if you have the right coach and the right environment, guys that can build push pulls off of that,
now we're talking. That is, to me, to skip ahead just a little, to me, if you simply get him to do tricep extensions when he has that hand, when he has those hands, and he rarely gets his hands broken too. When he's got those guys, put them on their face mask right there, yank down, rip under, and you're good to go. And instead, he's walking these guys back. And they run so many games. These are the questions I have. They run so many games. We have seen guys like Azeez Ojulari and other guys that have those independent speed rushes. Maybe that's not his game. They're very, he's not Azeez Ojulari. Very different build, very different player. But do they want him to just be collapsing the pocket in so that they can run game inside? So these are all the questions. This is why when he's a junior and we don't get a Senior Bowl, that's why it stinks.
It sucks.
More questions.
And so that's going to be the biggest kind of, and I mean, you can hear anyone talk about it. You can hear guys talk about it with Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt. It's all relevant. It's important too. A lot of these guys rotate, but they're coming in to execute assignments, and everyone knows that this Georgia defense really well coached and executed so well. Like it's what they were known for. So I think you gotta consider that, and when you're trying to project him, it's got to be a part of the conversation. There's no other way to really look at it.
So he's 5 right here.
And
again, he is not coming off looking to do anything there. He is looking to have that roll off of his back, to have that looper roll right off of his back and try to help them create that angle.
Yeah. But then what you see is he's got 2 guys on him. He sees the QB start to scramble. He's got good athleticism. What I like here is he's so athletic and he has such good change of direction. He doesn't even need to flip his hips, right? He just moves down the line of scrimmage.
And kind of just laterally hit that shuffle tack like a linebacker.
Right there. See how he's got his shoulders forward.
And he's always going to be in a position to make a square tackle, put his head where he wants it to go, wrap up, make a play if you're like that.
I think there's a lot of questions with some of the stiffness, but I think you can look at some of those plays and you really see
easy mover.
Easy mover. Yeah, moves really fluid for being 6'5", 275.
Very patient, never feels like there's any sort of rush to it, but it feels like, that's the structure of their defense and the role they want him in. He never panics. And it never feels like he is coming up short in terms of any pursuit or athleticism that he wants to execute, unless it's downfield and out of his wheelhouse, which there are reps where he is, 5, 10, 15 yards downfield in coverage.
I was surprised in that Alabama game how much he dropped. Was shocking. A lot of those edge drops, and so I was surprised by that. But moves really well. We're gonna see a line game here. He's gonna knife it to allow the stunt. But he shows some serious speed to power on this. So out there. Oh, maybe that's not it. I must have the wrong play. Because that was not it. Maybe it's this one.
Yeah.
Right there. Sorry. This happens when you're charting it.
And how often do you see a Calais Campbell, or how often do you see those awesome reps where they're the knife and they just blow up the play through it? You can hit that crease, that gap between the two, and the offensive lineman will recognize the stunt, go into pass off mode, and then you can just squeeze right through.
And this is out of the 3-man line. It's really impressive. You can see how fast he gets across here. So he's going to go right into the guard and then speed to power, get out. I really like him as an interior pass rusher. I like a lot of the things that he does. I don't know if it's, which is weird because I think in the Alabama game we're going to see a little bit of it. I actually thought he was more explosive on the edge from his 2-point than his 3-point stance, which is kind of ironic.
A lot of the times when he's down, it looks like he's down so that he can stack.
Right, in that 4-point where he's lined, you see a lot as a 6-tech when he's lined up on the tight end.
Yeah,
and he's kind of playing a game with that tight end,
and he wants to shoot both hands and then leverage.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I noted that a lot because that was something that coming from, I don't watch a whole lot of D-line play, but that was something that really interested me. I think we get a drop on him here.
It looks like he's sitting back. You can tell he's sitting back. He's got no weight on his toes.
I liked. So what I liked here was how he engaged with Kennard. He doesn't make the tackle, but I liked how he fit his run here because he's moving backwards, right? So he hits his zone drop because that's just what he's doing.
Nice 45-degree angle.
And then gets right inside. You see him rip right under the
change of direction. Check.
Yeah, and
transitions from moving kind of laterally and back.
We finally saw a rip. We finally saw a rip.
Exactly.
Gets right under him.
He's securing the edge there.
There's a little bit of a little something here on his on Kennard's right hand too. So I did not a hold if it's not called, but there was a little something there that I think hurt making the tackle. But it was his ability to be moving backwards, refit his run, rip under. Again, this guy's going to be a day one run defender. There's just no doubt about it.
Certainly. And I'm putting him on that strong side, on that tight end side, that Y side, and letting him dictate and work it back the other way.
And so this is what we were just talking about. You see him, he's down in a 4-point rate. Well, I mean, it's a funky stance, but he's
I call that the froggy.
Yeah, so he's looking at that tight end, and I think he pops the tight end.
Eyes are straight on the tight end, square, completely square. You can tell he's just like, I'm going to destroy you.
He didn't hit him, but this is what they do a lot is they have him read that tight end, give him pops, play games off of him, that sort of thing. So that's what I was trying to show with this was a lot of that. See, and he takes a step towards him, right? So
looks like he was anticipating the run.
And so it's just not a lot of
the transition there, hits it, has good forward lean over his knees, hits that hand inside, ready to play, ready to make a play.
So inside rep here. That's what third and 14 true pass situation here. They move him inside.
Looks like this is 4th down based on the sticks. 4th and 5.
So what I liked here, explosive first step. Thought he went to the spin a little late in the rep, but you can see. So he worked 68 there. 68's completely lost his base. He's trying to recover. He takes another couple steps, and then he hits the spin. If he hits that spin just right
when he had 68 leaning,
right,
and that's the thing with him.
I got you.
That process.
Boom. And so this is kind of where, when we're looking at how do we develop this guy, what can he become, his ability to get guards doing this regularly from the inside, because this is regular. He's got,
and there also, if you note, 95 is spying in the hole. So at the same time, his job could be to cross that face and make the quarterback step up that way. So 95 has all that way to work with at the same time. So he might want, that might be the desired outcome.
And he spins when he sees him start to move. That's let's see.
So that he has to go there.
It's definitely possible because 95 gets right up there.
They spied so much, and it did not work out a ton. Against some lesser opponents it did, but against Bama, Georgia did this a ton with that 3-tech spy. And that's what we saw the Ravens use Odafe Owe as. And there's a big difference between 95 and Odafe Owe.
But it really does go to show, like, there's some serious potential to build out his pass rush game. That's really what I see in terms of, and I mean, that's why I will continue to kind of make the comp to Owe. I don't think they're the same player, much different body compositions. But in terms of the development, what you can get to, what he's going to bring you to year 1, too, I think I mean, we saw immediate dividends from Owe, which even surprised me. I'm not going to lie and say I saw that coming. I didn't. He put it together early. I like this rep a lot. So he's going to be the read man on zone. So he's on the right side here.
Yep, he's 6.
So QB's reading him. He's the read man. If he comes in, I'm gonna keep it. If he's gonna stay out there, I'm gonna hand it off.
A little too wide for my liking there, but I think that's going to slow your foot speed down a little bit whenever you flip and pursue.
So I wondered if he was trying to get him to hesitate, because they do read him for a while here, because he's just kind of
right. Yeah, it's blocked up both ways.
It reminded me, we saw on this type of play, and not trying to make the comparison because people get upset when I do that, but this is what TJ Watt did to the Ravens on their veer concept all the time. Is he'd be that read man and he'd get out there, and he's so far up and so athletic
he's dictating the read and then using his athleticism to chase it down.
And it looked like he was ready for it, right? He was trying to kind of stay in there, like hand it off. Because if he stays out, he's handing it off. That's the read. If he knifes in, quarterback's going to keep it and go. And there's the lead block if the quarterback keeps it. But really liked his ability to kind of explode out of his stance there. And
definite athleticism to the point where if you're able to play both to that degree, you're a very high level athlete. In the SEC, if you can to some degree play both on an option read like that, you're a high level athlete.
And then we're gonna finish the Kentucky game. I think this is just gonna be a bull rush on Kennard. He gets inside. Not a whole lot there, but it's just kind of like this is the bulk of his pass rush game right now. Oh. He's going to long arm, use his length, his explosiveness. I'd like to see him do a little bit more off of that.
Counters are not anything that we see consistently. It's kind of a bull. He swipes a little bit. You see him work for leverage so much. You see him want to be able to make plays for his teammates and want to make his teammates right so often. And like you said, there's just very little freestyling. His role is robotic at times, it feels like, and there's such a lack of urgency at times. It feels intentional in a lot of things that he does. So it feels like he's really, he's like a power running back. He is just going to do what he is supposed to do. He is going to execute his assignment the way it is supposed to be. And sometimes you need a little creativity. So I think that's what we have the question marks about, just simply because it feels like he wasn't asked to be creative. He wasn't asked to freestyle. He wasn't asked to go out of structure and make plays, because he's a 5-star, but they've got 6 other 5-stars. So that was the Lions' den. And with Georgia playing so much too high, and I think Ted Nguyen was floating around talking about Mike McDaniel. I had a quote from Mike McDaniel from 2019 that offenses have to earn single high looks, have to earn those 8-man boxes by their run game being forceful. But when you can line up Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Travon Walker, Nakobe Dean, Channing Tindall, all these guys in the box, and have them play the run that well, it's going to be really hard to throw against them.
Absolutely. And we have a good question here. I didn't catch it when it got asked, but Dan asked, why would you spy with 95? So,
it takes away some hole throws a little bit, some quick, maybe some mesh or some things like that underneath. And 95 can run, man. He can run a little bit. And you want to it's dropping more guys into coverage, more conservative pass rush, and having a 2-level rush. It probably means that you're more concerned about the quarterback breaking the pocket and advancing downhill than you are about getting a sack. You want the quarterback to be holding the ball, having someone in his face, hoping another defender can come make a play.
I just love to see Ravens Twitter break if they drop Matabike into a zone hook like that.
Yeah, that would be a good guy to do it with, man. We've seen him run down screens.
Sorry, we'll do it with Jelly. Just do it with Jelly so that we can get the snap. So I pulled about. I only have. So this is 2020 Alabama. So last year.
Look at Dean right now in this freeze frame. I'm gonna cut you off. Look at him about to hit that hezzy. That little. He's 17. He's got that little lean ready to go. That's just a funny little freeze frame. Go ahead.
Yeah, nasty against Dickerson too. So I debated, should I show 2021 first versus 2020. The key takeaway that I want you guys to have that you're watching: dominant physical guy in all of his 2021 games. What I wanted to go back and see is how did it look against a much more physical line. This has 4 NFL linemen on it, 2 first rounders.
Who's the other guard with Brown?
I can't remember his name.
Me neither. Go ahead.
I can't remember who it is, but like that's Landon Dickerson, that's Neal, Alex Leatherwood, and then Deontay Brown's 65.
Yep, 65.
So I don't know who the right guard was, but basically all these guys are known for being physical dudes, especially that interior. Deontay Brown is an absolute mammoth. Was a guy that I was super interested in last year. So I really wanted to show what it looked like. Just we're gonna see it even here, just on a bull rush. He gets kind of rolled up on there at the end, but there's a little bit less pop in his hands, right? Like it's just not quite the same.
Feels like the guard was ready for the anchor and didn't feel threatened by anything else. You feel like his hands were ready. He was ready to lock horns right there.
Same thing here. So he's inside in the 3 tech.
He's 4i, I think.
Oh yeah, he is. He gets away there at the end. It's just like you could see.
It feels lumbersome. The transition from getting off the block to getting to Mac Jones just felt like it was laboring there. You don't see explosive closing speed.
Whereas in the other clips that we just saw in the Kentucky game, and I mean, it's Bama line versus Kentucky line. You got to factor that into it. But it's always helpful to kind of see where they're a little bit less dominant. It's going to be a run play.
Looks like he was outside the right tackle.
Yeah, and he plays it really well.
He does. You see the independent hand usage to keep shifting his weight and to gate that lineman away from him.
And this is against his peer, Evan Neal, who's top.
Leaning in his stance.
5 to 10 pick here. So right here on the right side of your screen.
2 to 1, and then he refits. He's not.
And again, he's playing the contain game there, right? So he wants to force that run inside.
That was a beautiful wrap of contain.
Yeah. And that's where sometimes people are like, well, why didn't he jump in the gap and play it? It's not what he's trying to do. See how he uses that on that last rep there? He uses that.
And Najee was hoping that he would. You saw Najee's eyes go up to see if there was contain there. And there was. Right here. He's trying to hit it outside. Can't.
And he's forcing him right back in. There.
So he has to knife back in, forces guys back inside, exactly like you said.
Very, very good run defender. And has been. I even have a couple 2019 games that I took a peek at. Didn't take many notes on, but even then. And that's doing it as a true freshman. So I think so. He's on Leatherwood here in that 4 tech.
And that Froggy ready to come off in low gear and help.
Same deal here. So he gets that long arm, keeps the space. He does a phenomenal job of keeping guys off his chest.
And say what you want about Leatherwood, but he's always been a damn good run blocker.
Yep. He's getting no movement on him, and then he's able to jump in his gap there. It's a little uglier, but gets the job done. But it's that I'm so pumped to see what he measures in that, because it's just the way he's kept all of these tackles off his chest has been insane.
He has plus tackle length,
like 30
probably 34-inch arms, I guess. His wingspan's probably pushing 82, 83, 34-inch arms plus. I mean, 35 is not surprising at all.
So he's in there on he looks like a 2 tech against their left guard. Yeah, so he ends up getting doubled there, but he was getting very little movement on the left guard. Again, shows a little bit less of a bull rush. So that's Deontay. And then Leatherwood comes in.
Hands
nice.
Very slow. Hand speed was not good there. Maybe he's coming off in low, but very, very, again, laboring off the line of scrimmage.
Huge departure from even what we're going to see in the 2021 Bama game, but
yep.
It's just a big difference.
Hands were low, slow out of his stance. Looks like he's probably tired, I'm guessing, as well. So not a plus rep, not a PFF plus 0.5.
Yeah, so what I liked here is you kind of see a couple punches that do show some of his hand strength. So he's right in here against the right guard, right tackle. He's going to push off Neal, push
And
off
there you saw
right
some
guard.
explosiveness.
Yeah, yeah. And this is kind of like where last year, if I was watching this, I'd be like, all right, there's that potential in his hands. But he's working off against on the backside, and he's just working down the line, right? So just shows pop, refit, pop, pop, pop. It's just like that bag drill where they're just going down, hitting their punch across the bags,
You'll
right?
see it at the combine in 2.5 months.
Yeah. And then I think we got just one more on this game. Jump into the last game. I think it's one of the last plays that he played. I think he gets hit with a double here. Yeah, so I like how he split the double here. I thought that was his ability to stay square to the line of scrimmage. He digs his right foot in right there and then steps in. So he doesn't make the tackle, but that's how you split the double and keep it open so that right tackle wants to combo off you. But when you're fitting it like that, so like ideally,
the strength to create that torque there, the core strength to be able to torque like that and rip back under. See a little bit of that basketball skill in a way.
So ideally, like 41's filling the gap here, but he's trying to combo into him, right, so that the right tackle takes it over. But because he's there, he's got to bounce it outside, but he bounces it right into a DB. So did his job, occupying that combo long enough, and then splitting it at the end. And then so we got. Oh, this is super helpful. Emil Okafor, he's on the team this year. Don't know what his situation is. I don't know if he's a
if I had to guess, I'd say a late round guy. I don't know.
Oh, he's a draftable guy this year, right? I did look at this. Thanks, Dan, for grabbing that. And Tony's in there saying 34-inch arms. You like the arm length talk?
There you go, Tony.
I love talking about the arm length when it's relevant. Let me tell you. Okay, so let's get this 2021 Bama game going. So again, SEC championship game, not the Natty. Grab the first clip. I think I only have 6 clips. So everyone wanted to see, when I tweeted what games do you want to see of Walker this year, everyone said Natty. Obviously, don't have film yet, unfortunately. And then everyone said Kentucky, but they wanted to see Bama because of the reps against Neal, and then Kentucky reps against Kennard. Anyone that watched that SEC championship game, and Spencer messaged me about this, it's just a boring watch. A lot of pushing the ball to the edge. They didn't really run the ball. I mentioned that when I did the Jordan Davis breakdown, they ran a lot of lefty.
They entirely avoided Georgia's front seven.
Yeah, lefty end was Walker. Right defensive tackle was Jordan Davis. Where are you going to run the ball? So I only pulled about 6 clips. That's not an indictment that he had a bad game at all. That's simply, I'm not going to have you guys
There's nothing
watch
to show in any of those
pass. Yeah, so I'm interested to see the Natty when it comes out, when I can get the film on it. But
here we see him in alignment. We haven't seen him in much. He's got his butt down a little bit more. He's more that track stance. He's looking to threaten with speed to some degree, and you can just tell from that stance right there, that flat back a little more so.
And it ends up being the bull rush. And that's kind of so, when I went from some of the stuff I've seen, I think one of the bigger disappointments with him as a prospect is I just didn't see him develop over the 3 years as a pass rusher.
Hand counters.
It's just not there. Like, there's just not the clips of it. He's got, he sets up well with the explosiveness, and then it's just everything's bull rush.
So he is to the field, and Bryce Young is fast.
And that's got to play a factor for sure.
So that's why it's just so frustrating. It's hard to evaluate him. And if you see him go blow the combine off its doors and his RAS is fantastic, you're thinking I can do a lot more maybe in my scheme than what we saw in Georgia's scheme that did want to force you to fight through their teeth. Yeah,
and that's got to factor into any Georgia player. You have to consider what they're going to look like outside of this scheme. A scheme that was very notable for keeping guys on assignments. That's just the reality. It's going to apply to every single one of them. I don't think I talked about it enough when I talked about Jordan Davis, but that's because this is the 3rd Georgia guy I've watched, and every time I'm like, there's just more that they can do. And so it's going to be a little bit of the yin and yang with him as a prospect and where to value him and and all of that. So here we're going to see him against Neal. So he tries to hit Neal with the long arm. Neal tries to give him the snatch. So there you see nice little exchange of length there. So Neal hits him with that. Again, it's just
horns. There's locking horns.
And that's kind of how I felt about most of it. And again, it could be they're playing contain against QB, but it's just mostly how I felt about him in this game. I didn't need to go to that one. It was just a lot of that. Hitting him with the long arm, pushing upfield, bull rush situations. So there's a push pull.
Just the processing speed is the question mark versus the assignment are the things that I feel like I don't have answers to in this evaluation, which makes it tricky. Because I feel like he's so capable of shedding and so capable of deploying the second hand usage, but he just doesn't.
And that's what it can look like. He gets him right down, right? Like this is what it can look like if you have him doing it consistently and doing it right off as he gets upfield as a pass rusher. It's like right there instead of now. But again, he kind of put his hands on him and held right where he's reading. So is that low gear? Probably. He's probably playing that low gear contain role, focusing on the QB in the context of a quick pass game. That's how it seemed in this one. So a lot of caveats have to be placed into this.
I think we got a little spotty on the feed.
Yeah, mine zoomed out. I didn't know what happened there with you. I didn't know if you could see me. Again, Canadian internet every episode. So here we get in a pass rush situation.
And he's wider than he has been.
Bull rush. But again, maybe being told to. Hard to say.
To me, it's just how I have a lot of questions about it. How is he on the field on so many third downs? And the guys that Georgia has, the other options that they have to deploy, I can't imagine that if you're not telling him to do that you're pleased with it unless it's contain and you just don't care about him winning violently, him winning quickly, forcing quarterbacks off their spot. I mean, they also like to keep two big boys usually in the interior. And so maybe they do just want to get more of an interior rush with this unit as well. So a lot of questions, and I do have a lot of questions. And that's why I feel like when we get to the kind of the summary of this, it's just hard to emphatically answer and put a stamp on him as, high first round player or, mid first round player, because I have questions that I need to be answered before I can do that.
And we're going to get there. And that's kind of exactly, and that's why I led with the discussion question of like, what do you need to see? What separates a first, mid first, top first? What are those? So we'll get into that after. But I mean, this is kind of, this was the second game I watched. I watched the Kentucky game first. And just to see nothing really develop out of it with some of these opportunities, it made me feel, I think, Dan, if you're in the chat, I'm pretty sure I messaged you right after. And I was like, I just don't see it with him. And, it took going back, seeing a little bit more film, kind of reflecting on my notes, thinking about it a little bit more to kind of, recheck some of my expectations. But I was just expecting it to have a little bit more growth.
I think it's also, great rep there to a degree.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that also is like the way we hear some other guys talk about him. Dane Brugler, some other guys have crazy high grades on him.
Yeah. 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 And even a guy like Zierlein, who's, I think he has him, he said on the pod, he had him at like number 54, but then he went into detail specifically on Walker for why that is. And he explained the impact of bias. And he said he just has a bias against power rushers. He doesn't think that, but then it's kind of been interesting because I think Brugler kind of picked up on that. Now he's been like kind of challenging him each pod since. So talked about Hendrickson a little bit the last week and some of these power rushers that he was wrong on. And that's the thing. And the thing I love about Zierlein as an analyst doing the draft is he doesn't care if he's right or wrong. He just goes through his evaluation. He applies his process and he trusts what he sees. You can't fault the guy for that. He's very, very upfront about what his bias are, and he plays that as such, and that's all. You're never going to see me like go back and try and cold tweet a guy on you got him ranked here and he turned out to be that guy. Very.
I mean, I love AJ Epinesa. I had a top 10 or 15 grade on AJ Epinesa, and I could get into a whole statement on that, but has not played as a top 10, 15 player.
Yeah. So here we see, nice strength against Neal, ends up shooting him there, misses the tackle. But in terms of edge defender against, this is a top tackle in the draft.
Strings him out. Doesn't let the back turn a cold corner.
He's just containing that edge. This is why he's such a high floor guy. He's going to be a good run defender in the National Football League.
You're going to be able to play him early.
Yeah, if he ends up on the Ravens and they don't bring Campbell, he's going to replace a lot of those snaps, those 5-tech snaps, I think.
And that's what's really interesting is moving him around, especially on those rundowns and pass downs and some of those different things. But a lot of the questions stem from the pass rush.
Yeah. And then I think Neal gets a big win here. Yeah, so this was an interesting rep, and I'll get the end zone angle. I really wanted to focus on this one because I noticed in this game, and we've talked about it, he's really been attacking Neal's edge. And so a lot of that we kind of speculated maybe he's playing more of a contain role, low gear, stuff we've seen a lot of guys do against the Ravens to keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket. But he kind of attacks him inside here. And it was a little bit of a departure from the original pass rush.
I think we got a spy here too, another DL spy.
Yeah, right there. And, he just doesn't – he cuts inside. He hits him with a little bit of a hezzy. And, again, he's kind of out there in that he's not a true 5. He's more of a 6-tech against –
He's wide. He's a wide 5. Yeah, he's one of his more wide alignments. He's running in almost like they're running game.
Kind of looked like he kind of wanted to rip under his arm, but he didn't pull it up with any sort of forceful motion. He gets his right hand under Neal's armpit right there, but he didn't really like try and shoot it up like that. So it didn't really, because you could shoot it and dip and then kind of get under. But what he does here is
very high.
He kind of forces him into where he's normally been playing that contain role, and he takes it for 6. So it was just an interesting rep to me to see him do something different. And then have that outcome as well. But, again, just in terms of a pass rush plan, yeah, he is high, actually. He doesn't bend. It almost looked like he was knifing, expecting a stunt.
That's what I'm saying.
That was the first thing that I expected on when I watched just him. I was like, where's the loop? Because no one comes. But that's how it looked. So it was just a very interesting play.
It went against what they did all game too. Weird rep.
That was the last one I had on him. So, let's just let's do a quick summary here. Give me your thoughts. What do you think? Where do you have him at? What's your takeaway on him as a player?
I want to see his testing. He's one of the ones that I'm really curious about the testing and the measurables. Not even the measurables. I feel like I know what I'm getting. 6'4 plus, more likely 6'5", 265 minimum. More likely 275, 280. If he has a 10-yard split that's through the roof when he had so many snaps where he's not in a track stance, he's not threatening with speed, he's not threatening the edge, and I see that, then I'm like, okay, well, then he's the type of athlete where we can have him do that. And there's a reason why. And again, that's more context on Georgia's scheme, whatever. But I'm extremely confident having him play strong side, defensive end, outside linebacker. You're talking about, those 5-tech, 4-tech, 4-eye, 3-tech, all those things. The length. So we talk about hand power, hand speed. It's like his length is his hand speed in the run game, but his hands aren't quick enough in the pass game at times when he wants to execute, like you just said, that rip. So the length acts as the trump card the same way that hand speed could, but I want to see his hands get faster regardless. And something that's stupid that I always say is, I love a guy if I call them, black belt certified. And that's being able to counter quick hands, keep your chest clean. His game is the exact opposite. It's I'm getting your chest every time. You're never getting my chest.
Exactly.
But how often do you see the karate, the swipes, the wipes, the clubs, the rips, all those things? And that's how you expose a tackle. That's how you get a tackle or a blocker into recovery mode, into survival mode. And that's where you see sacks. And that's where you see production, is when you get those tackles into oh shit mode. And you ultimately don't see that from him. So to me, you can play him, you can move him around. Something I've kind of been working on, kind of ranking guys. Are they, a major on your team? Are they a captain, down through lieutenant, sergeant? And to me, I'm not looking at him as that kind of captain or that major, as that team captain, as that force multiplier who is going to be a driving force. But I'm seeing someone kind of, I imagine, and this is the purple tinted glass, I imagine he's a little different body type, but Courtney Upshaw comes to mind. Very much so. He's not quite as thick in the pants to have kind of that really devastating power in ways, but he's more nimble than that, much more nimble than that. So I see him being that kind of player, football intelligence wise, very rarely out of place, very deliberate. I think he's smart to a degree, just based on tape. We saw maybe a mess up on that last rep, but it didn't feel like he's doing the wrong thing very often. And that comes down to even just like leverage wise, what shoulder do I give? What hand do I give? Where do I angle? All of that feels refined. So to me right now, I have him as like a starter, but not. And to me, most often, if I'm giving a first round grade, they're a day one starter. And if you're higher, you're a day one impact player. And to me, he's an impact player against the run. He's not an impact player day one as a pass rusher. And I don't know that there are the qualities, and I just have a lot of question marks there. So if he is the centerpiece of my draft, I don't know that I'm going to come away feeling great about my draft. So I look for him to be a top 40 player, most likely.
Yeah. And so I think that's a really good summary. Like, looking at his run game, explosive hands, very powerful, very smart player. Look at his football IQ. Completely agree. He's never out of position. He's more often than not winning the leverage battle in the run game. Super important, especially when I look at everything from the offensive line perspective. He's a bitch to block. There's no other way to look at it. He's terrible to block.
He's alone.
He gave Evan Neal's going to be a top 5 pick, probably maybe top 7, whatever. Even in the run game, Neal couldn't block him in the sense that he couldn't win his leverage battle. He only won it a couple of times. So that shows me intelligence. He's, it's not even just I'm winning the shoulder that I need to get to. He was even willing to kind of, give up one shoulder, get back to the other. So, extremely intelligent player, no doubt about that.
As soon as he lost a step, you can feel him calculating very quickly, how do I get back to my leverage?
And it shows that he knows.
It was seamless. It was so quick, and there's that explosiveness. So that's my questions. And if he is sorry to cut you off, but if he's such a dominant run defender, Kirby Smart's like, you're going to be the reason I can play too high every single snap. It's you, it's Jordan Davis, and 88 Carter. If I can count on you every play, then I'm happy to do everything else, to blitz Nakobe Dean, play too high, disguise fronts, run game instead more so. Then that all makes sense, and you can see him maybe being an explosive pass rusher, and that's why the testing is so important to me.
Yeah, I agree. And then looking at his pass rush game, there's just not enough there for me. And I think we made it really clear. It's a bull rush go-to, use the long arm. I can look at that and show you a litany of things that I can do off of that long arm. You've talked about it at length with Owe. Needs to use the long arm more because he's doing things without using the long arm when he should be long arm.
Like going through the long, Owe goes through the long arm like it's, just like can't think of the right word to say, but it's like it's part of what he's supposed to do, but he's not actually executing on it. And it's the polar opposite with Walker, where he is only using the long arm and is not countering to anything, is not even really trying to. And like Zerline says, I feel like I've been scorned by loving guys like AJ Epinesa. I feel like I've been scorned by some power rushers and not seeing that develop. So I just have a lot of questions and requiring development. And Owe was a first round player, but where was he in the first round? The very end of the first round. So, we're going to go to Owe. We talk Ravens. We're Ravens fans, all that good stuff. But there's a lot of similarities just in terms of I feel so good about him if I have the right plan for him, and I know that his hands are going to get faster. He's going to work on counters, all of those things you bring him in. And if he tests through the roof, you know that he can gun off the snap a little bit faster in his workout and all these different things. Then you're like, okay, that's the added context that we need.
Yeah, and that's just so I have him. I can see him sneaking into the first. I think there's a team picking at the end that'll gamble on him, just like we gambled on Oweh, to make that comparison again. But in terms of my evaluation, I have him as a top of second round player, and it's just not seeing that development in his pass rush game, not seeing him even try. Now, whether or not, again, whether it's deliberate or not, I can only go off what I see. I can make assumptions. You might see him go out to the combine, see him in some of the drills, see some of the stuff that we haven't been able to see. Maybe that'll answer some of those question marks, but based just off the film, off what I've seen, I don't see enough there as a pass rusher to think that he's going to be, I would be pretty disappointed so far with him at 14. It would just feel like that whole great, we have another elite run defender, maybe isn't going to give us the juice. The way I'd be spinning this when I'm trying to make it sound happy is I think he's good. I think he's got a lot to his game to be a good interior rusher, but I think he'd need to beef up a little bit. And I'm going to be a little bit worried about that Paul Kruger tweener. You remember Kruger put on weight, they set him outside, then he lightened up, and then he kind of lit it up in his fourth year.
That's a lot of development. That's a lot of asks. It's a lot of questions.
Tough for a mid-first round pick for me to have that much uncertainty around him as a pass rusher. That's what concerns me. But again, I think he's going to be one of the better run defenders in this draft class.
Probably dominant top 2-3 run defenders in this class.
Yeah.
And relative to their position. I mean, Jordan Davis is a better run defender. He's also a nose tackle. So that is his job only.
Yeah.
But ultimately, yeah, it's just, I could see it. And like you said, I could see a team, I'm just throwing this against the wall, like the Chiefs. Oh, we could really use someone to stick on the edge who's going to win every time, and we can play more too high. And that makes perfect sense. And he can be a piece that can solve problems for you in the run game very quickly, has tools, and for a very competitive team that is drafting kind of out of a scheme need, can be a high impact player to a degree for you in terms of what he can unlock, the games you can run with him, using him as a chess piece, and all of those kinds of things. So I think he would be a good fit for a good team, but he's not a foundational piece to build around.
Yeah, and I said that a lot about Jordan Davis because I think Davis is a great fit with the Chargers. Just in terms of, they don't need that kind of go-to playmaker. They got Bosa, they got James, they got those guys. So it's going to be one of those teams where, they kind of got some guys in place, but they need the dirty work guy, the glue guy. And that's really what I see Travon Walker as. He's a glue guy. He's going to do everything you ask him to do. He's going to do it really well. He's going to be a smart guy. Is he going to be that playmaker, that difference maker, that third down, I'm going to go get a sack and make a play on the ball? I just don't see it based on the film. I can see it developing for sure. I see freakish athleticism for his size. I see extraordinary strength in his hands. Those are all tools that I can work with. But I need to have a lot more confidence to have him as a mid-first round pick. It's that plain and
exactly. And that's why the Senior Bowl would help so much. You look at a guy like Jermaine Johnson, to me right now, where he's maybe slightly he's not an outstanding run defender, but he's a very strong run defender, but does have those explosive abilities, does possess that twitch, the three-way go, to the bend a little bit, the inside counters, things like that. So I think we're in lockstep there. And I mean, you're not shocked to see it develop. It just feels he is a player that coaches will love more than fans.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Edgar Allen hopping in. Good to see you, buddy. Love the videos. And I think that's really where I stand. I kind of knew I spent a lot of time on his film before we did this because he was a tricky evaluation for me. But that's really where I stand. So any closing thoughts, last thoughts before we wrap her up here?
We're both dum-dums and we'll probably have 15 sacks next year.
No, absolutely. That's exactly what this is.
If he's your second round pick, I think you feel damn good.
Yeah.
I think you feel damn good if he's your second round pick, or if you, for instance, have like the Ravens situation last year, you have a high, 2 low first round picks or something. If he is your second guy, he's not your, bell of the ball of your draft class. I think he's an incredible pick. But he's going to play. He's going to play a lot. He's going to be good. And I feel very confident in that. And we'll see what the pass rush looks like. But the urgency is not there. The hand speed's not there. There's a little bit of a lethargic aspect to his game. And we'll see what he does in April and at his pro day and all that good stuff. Or not in April. When is the combine? March?
It's a couple
early
weeks.
March.
I think it's like February 28th.
Yeah, it's February, late February. I'm completely blanking out here, but we'll see what happens in a couple weeks. That'll give us a little more context. And, me and you aren't, national insiders or anything. So we'll hear some more tidbits and things. And sometimes there is a little bit of good info or a nice video that gives you some explanation, or a coach says something. So we have questions about him, and maybe some of those get answered and will influence us a little bit differently. But good player, going to help out a team very much so and unlock some things in their scheme. And I think a good team should draft him to help them, especially if they're a too high team.
Yeah, and so I think my last words on it is, I think a team that's looking for playmakers kind of to be that guy, I think it's going to be tough to sell me on them. But if you have some of those guys and you need more consistency in terms of your execution, Chargers come to mind in the run game. I could see him being actually a really good fit there, even though I just mentioned Davis going there. That type of guy, I think he's going to be a really good fit on a team like that. I think a team that's kind of desperate for playmakers, guys that are going to get you the ball, get you the sacks. He's just not going to kind of, blow your skirt up on that. So I think that's kind of where, when I look at this from the Ravens perspective and, what I want to see the Ravens get, it's just not Travon Walker as their first pick. So that's kind of where I've landed on him.
Pick. That's a beautiful one.
You're feeling great. If they go out and take care of their tackle situation at 14, and then 45 rolls around, or they even, jump up a few spots for him. Because I think if he started kind of falling into those late 30s, you might see.
He's in the 40s. That's a slant. I think if you get him in the 40s, you're getting a good player that's going to play for you, and that's good value.
Exactly. And I'm willing to live with kind of that more higher floor in the second round, getting that guy in there, rather than going for like can't think anyone off the top of my head, but maybe a little bit more of a projection guy with a sky high ceiling, but maybe you don't get him on the field. So I'm always a little bit. It's weird in the first round. I really want to see that ceiling. In the second round, I get a little bit worried if there's no floor there. So it's just kind of that draft management. When do you take your shots? When do you not? That's kind of how I've always looked at the second round, because so many solid players slip down there that I'm really focusing on that floor. So that's kind of, just to wrap it up into a neat little bow. That's where I stand on Walker. Don't see him being, the go-to guy at 14. Would absolutely love to still see him later in the draft. Would even consider a small trade up for him. So that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for popping in. Drop a comment down below. Let us know what you think. Hit the like button and be sure to subscribe to Two Guys Watching Football. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Peace out, everyone.